Hello, and welcome to Horrify, a brand new channel dedicated to horrors, fictional and real. So, today we will be horrifying ourselves with The Running Man by Stephen King, writing under the pseudonym of Richard Bachmann. Bit of background, this novel was written in 1982, so by a comparatively young Stephen King. And the story is set in 2025, so next year. And the story is basically, it's a dystopian future novel in which the world is in a terrible condition. There are wars everywhere, there are shortages of resources, the majority of the population is poor, the rich are living in enclaves and they have everything they need, and there's a vast amount of social injustice. Kind of like today, really. Anyway, the protagonist, our hero, is a man called Ben Richards. Of course, he's a very, very poor man. He's in a desperate situation. He's unemployed. He has virtually no prospects of finding work. He's married and he has a young daughter who is very, very sick from pneumonia. I believe it's pneumonia. And she could be cured. She could be cured. She could be helped, but she's suffering without any medical assistance whatsoever due to the complete lack of infrastructure. The poor are left to fend for themselves, and as I just said, Ben Richards is unemployed, and the only person working is his wife, who can sometimes earn some money as a sex worker. So, of course, this is an intolerable situation. Benjamin Richards is desperate to save his daughter, who is quite obviously dying. For that, he needs money. And so that's why he, much against his wife's wishes, he goes to participate in the games. So, what are the games? The games are, as the name might suggest, games, but they're not nice, friendly, easygoing kind of games. We're not talking about, pin the tail on the donkey or bingo, or it's not one of those games where people stand around with a genial host and they answer questions, they answer general knowledge questions or anything like this. No. The games have titles such as Swim the Crocodiles, Treadmill to Bucks, and, for example, the titular game, The Running Man. Despite the fact that every single game is simply designed to maim or kill a contestant for the pleasure of the audience, in return for perhaps winning a few new dollars here or there. So, they've basically got the population a day, they've got these prizes dangled in front of them. In Treadmill to Bucks, for example, people with breathing respiratory problems have to run on a treadmill. They're asked a question. Every time they get the question wrong, the speed of the treadmill is increased. So they're very, very cruel, sadistic, and the people are so desperate that they're queuing up around the block to be chosen to participate in one of these games. Now that's the point. People don't get to choose what they participate in. Benjamin Richards joins the queue and eventually he gets into the building with hundreds of other people, and the people are put through a selection process. And the selection process is increasingly stringent, and at every level people are eliminated. So Richards passes through this level of tests for health, for IQ. There's a whole gamut of things for them to work out what are the capabilities of the contestant in question. The poorer the contestant, the poorer the game they're put into. Richards, fortunately or unfortunately, is among the top percentile of candidates, and he and two other people are chosen. It's one or two other people are chosen to participate in the Running Man. And as I just said, only the best candidates are chosen for this, because the Running Man is the absolute apex game. So what are the rules of the Running Man? The rules are simple. The contestants are given a 12-hour head start, and then they have to survive for 30 days while being hunted. And there's a specific core of people called, as one might imagine, the hunters. And the hunters are obviously tasked with hunting down the running man. Okay, it's pretty obvious. And they're led by a man called McCone. But it's not only the hunters that the runner has to evade. The runner has to evade the entirety of society, because once the deadline is passed, the safe deadline is passed, for 30 days, the entire nation is going to be looking out for the runner, because anyone who can give information leading to the elimination of the runner, anyone who can, the more information they can give, the more useful they can make themselves, the more they're going to win. So everybody has a cash incentive, everyone has an incentive to be on the lookout for the runner. So basically, the individual has literally the entire of society against him or her. And there's another rule as well. The runner is given a camera and has to film themselves every day. They can film themselves doing whatever they like, and they have to send a cartridge of themselves every day to the games building, so the games building can air it in the evening. It's kind of like, it's reality TV, it's just reality TV. The people at home, the audience need to be able to see some updates. So they want to see their boy doing something, so that they can, they've got something to tune into every night for an update. And that's basically one of the things that the runner has to do. If the runner forfeits this, the prize will be negated, but they will still be hunted, and they will be hunted even if they survive over 30 days. The hunt will never stop. So they absolutely have to send these cartridges every day to the games building with video footage of themselves doing whatever. Richards himself, he expresses some concerns about this, basically saying, hey, but aren't you going to be able to track me if I do this? And Killian, the head honcho at the games, whom Richards eventually meets, assures him that these capsules, these film capsules, will not be used to track him. Killian also makes it clear to Richards during a conversation that no one has ever survived the running man, and they never expect anyone to. So Richard says, okay, you're running a rigged game then. Killian says, basically, yeah, we are. Because the running man serves two purposes. First of all, there's the entertainment factor, and there's also the fact that they use it to get rid of undesirables like Richards. Because Richards, I've not mentioned before, is somewhat of a subversive. He's an intelligent man, and he's the kind of person who, in a society like this, essentially a fascistic society where people don't have any freedom, he's the kind of person who would be very, very dangerous. He's his own man. He's a thinker. He's got a strong character. He's independent. He's the kind of person that the authorities don't need around. So games like The Running Man and games like this serve to rid society of potentially problematic individuals. And the prize for survival is $1 billion new dollars. So there's basically a financial system in the book. Stephen King doesn't really go into it too much. There's old dollars which are worth less, new dollars obviously which are worth more, and you win $1 billion new dollars if you survive. Also, whilst on the run, for every day the individual remains free, they accrue a certain amount of prize money. So if the individual doesn't survive, which no one ever does, but they last 5 days, 5 days worth of prize money will be sent presumably to their next of kin if they have any. And during the sort of induction, Killian explains to Richards that they always stake some money in advance. So Richard is given some $1,000, like 2 or 3 days worth of prize money in advance, under the assumption that he'll at least be able to survive for 2 or 3 days before being caught. Usually that's kind of, even most contestants are usually good enough to survive at least that long. Richards isn't the only one running. There's another man called Laughlin who is released at the same time. Killian explains that they released 2 men just in case one of them proves to be inept, we could say, and gets caught too quickly. So they've got somebody else, to keep the hunt going. So Richards goes on the run, and whether he as I've just said, he's a very resourceful man. He's not to be taken lightly. You know, he's really a formidable individual. So is it possible that he is the first one to survive the Running Man? Maybe, maybe not. But he's certainly a formidable individual, and he does find help along the way. Killian advises him to stick to his own, that is, the poor, and to remain among people who may or may not be sympathetic. And, that's not bad advice. The book itself it's Stephen King, and it's superbly written. It's only a short book. It's only a very short book. You see, it's very thin. But Stephen King crams a lot in there. The world building is succinct, but he gives you a superb overview of the kind of world we're talking about, kind of world we're living in here. And the characterization is superb. You really get an excellent picture of Benjamin Richards as a man who's desperate. He's also furiously angry at the conditions that he and his wife and his daughter have to live in. And he's doing all of this for his daughter. You know, in his mind, he really doesn't believe that he has any chance. And his wife doesn't want him to go because his wife is convinced that if he goes to the games building, she's never going to see him again. So he's driven by desperation, sheer desperation. He's unable to find any other work, and it's the only way he can see to get some money to save his daughter, to get medicine to save his daughter. So the stakes are very, very high. There's his survival, there's the survival of his daughter, the survival of his family, against what could basically be described as impossible odds. So, of course, as I said, it was written in 1982. So we see, for example, that there was a lot less video surveillance in those days. There weren't cell phones. It was far, in comparison to today, it will be far harder to track somebody. I mean, if this was really set in with present day technology, pretty much anyone will be found in about 5 minutes. So it's interesting. In 1982, it was more possible to write a believable Running Man story set in society, just because there was less surveillance. It was less easy to track people than it is today. I mean, they give Richards a handheld camera and cartridges with which to film himself. Obviously, today you would have a cell phone or something like that. So you can see it's a book of its time, but it's a really, really superb read. It's set to a countdown, so basically it starts. Each chapter counts down from 100, and we see a countdown from 100. Each chapter, 199, 98, and so on. And it's a very, very fast-paced story, and very, very highly recommended. So if you haven't already, tried The Running Man, give it a look. Does Richard survive or doesn't he? I'm not telling you. You'll have to read the book. One other thing you might have noticed: Arnold Schwarzenegger is on the cover of The Running Man. The reason is because in 1987 there was a film made of The Running Man, based loosely, really loosely, on the book. The two things are virtually unconnected. The Benjamin Richards in this book and the Benjamin Richards played by Schwarzenegger are utterly different. Benjamin Richards isn't like Schwarzenegger. He's not a big hulking muscular man. Far from it. Okay, so thanks for watching. Thanks for your time. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, liking, and maybe even sending me $1 billion in cash. Who knows? So, thanks again for watching, and I will see you on the next video. For now, I hope I've horrified you. Goodbye.